Florida State is back in the win column with a 41-16 dominating win over the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. We'll talk about that and also a start of our favorite week of the year, Miami Hate Week. All that and more on today's edition of Locked On Seminoles. Let's ride.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome back to another edition of Locked On Seminoles. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Drake here, and today in the stream yard, I got Mr. David Wise on a beautiful Halloween morning. David, what's going on, my guy? How was your weekend?
Drake, it was good. Happy Halloween to you and to everyone. Time to get spooky this week, and I will accept nothing less than 53-10 against Miami for obvious reasons.
We'll talk about that towards the end of the show, but first, let's relive the weekend that was. Florida State snaps a 3-game losing streak against the Jeff Sims-less Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, and also, Dave, it was at the beginning of the game, I think it was one of those games that we felt like a little bit sloppier, but towards the end of the game, that the final score was kind of how the game indicated that was a dominating win in a very much needed dominant fashion overall.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Because it was, like you said, that game early felt like Mike Norvell was outsmarting himself, and it was a here we go again moment, and it was just good to see us pull away from a team that we were clearly better than. Just everywhere on the field, we were better than Georgia Tech, and it needed to show through, and it did over 60 minutes. We were waiting to see that.
We were really waiting to see that. And it would just also show that I think in the past, this team, or the year before, and especially the year before that, if you had kind of started off the way you did, mentally it was hard for this team to kind of pick themselves up and be like, hey, listen, we're better than this. And then you saw Jordan Travis throw that huge block when I think it was Lawrence Taylor, Trey Benson was running down the sideline. It was one of those games where it wasn't a complete game, obviously, because we'll talk about in the next segment where there's some things that we need to clean up before we play in Miami. But overall, the wide receivers were catching what they needed to catch. Jordan looked amazing on the day with 396 yards, 3 touchdowns with a QBR of 90.4. And overall, the running backs, they just showed out. And we also saw what, in my personal opinion, what even better was the young guys, the second-string offensive line. Our offensive line for next season could be really good with Julian Armella, Quayshawn Sapp. Overall, it looks really solid here. Bryce Nessis as well. And then you saw Rodney Hill and also CJ Campbell, who potentially was out for the year with a broken fibia, scoring a touchdown. I had to feel awesome for the team.
Yeah, it's, look, if you're a Florida State basketball fan, anytime you see those backups come in at the end of the game, you know the game's gone well. It was good to see us be able to do that. Look, this is the reality. And no win in conference play is going to be an FCS win. I know that's a sensitive subject, but you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Miami, not to pick on them, but to pick on them, couldn't pull away from Virginia, which is a bad football team. Truly, that's a bad football team. Georgia Tech's a bad football team. And this is what we should have been able to do against them. We saw a lot of things we should really like in this game. This is the good segment, right? So Jordan Travis, we hadn't seen him throw for 396 yards. We hadn't seen him have a nearly perfect game through the air. We had questions about whether there was a Jekyll and Hyde thing going on with that 4-game, 3-game split. It was just good to see that, okay, I think we can all say that 3 games was against just really good teams that we have some catching up to do towards. The NC State game, it sucks, but look, that's a good football team. We're beating the teams we should beat. I think we still are. This team still is what we thought it was after those first 4 games, which is a team that's gotten an awful lot better since last year, a team that we have a lot to look forward to, because Jordan Travis's performance on the day wasn't the only good spot, like you said. Trey Benson ran for 111 yards. Lawrence Taylor ran for 70 yards. Rodney Hill ran for 40 yards. It was a complete effort. Johnny Wilson dominated on only 3 catches. Toafili added 84 yards through the air. This box score, is just stuffed with positives of things to look forward to next year because there were a lot of young guys involved. It's great to see.
No, not only that, this is the third time I think in Florida State history where that we had a quarterback throw for 350 plus yards, a running back run for 100 plus yards, and a wide receiver go for 100 plus yards in the same game. The other two times happened in 1992, and I think the other one was 2012. So overall, like this is really good, a really really great sight to see, especially because you're right, it's against a conference opponent. You often don't see your team blowing a conference opponent in this sort of fashion. And now we'll get to what basically what we need to clean up. But it was something that was much needed after going through a very grueling middle part of the schedule, 3 straight ranked teams. I know NC State's not ranked anymore, but NC State, when we played them, still did have Devin Leary for the majority of the game. We went up against Clemson, who I would not be surprised if they're the 4th ranked team in the CFP. And Wake Forest, even though Wake Forest did, get blown up by Louisville, if you watch that game, they had 8 turnovers. That's not the Wake Forest team that we played against. And if they had 8 turnovers against us, we probably would have done the same thing to them. So
Yeah, and just to round that out, the offense wasn't even what shone through most to me. Especially through the early part of this game when we were a little worried about how this game was going. The defense just clamped down. This was a very well-rounded defensive effort too. You had 10 tackles for loss on the day. That's just a very very sound 60 minutes of football on both sides of the ball. If we can be doing that consistently against the better teams on our schedule, it's not going to take long before these losses that we don't think should be losses or that are close losses turn into wins. That is something everyone here wants to say. Drake, is there anything else everyone here should want to say?
folks, you should head on over to Bet Online for the best odds on all your sports, whether it be the MLB World Series, NFL, NCAA football, and also basketball. College basketball is actually right around the corner, so check out the future odds for that. But as always, folks, we are back with once again our Fade Dave segment of the week of the millennia of the century. And Dave, I've got a good one for you here.
Mm.
We'll save the Miami line for right now because I know right now we're 8.5 point favorites. I already know we're leaning on that, so we'll save that for later in the week. I right now have you're one of your favorite Big Ten teams as a home game. They fired their head coach Paul Chris a few weeks ago. Maryland travels to Wisconsin. Maryland is a 5.5 point underdog with baby brother Talia. Where are you taking for this game?
Give me the points. These are both just crappy teams that I don't care much for. It's really tough to watch Wisconsin play football in general. They could be ranked number 1 in the country and it wouldn't matter. They're not good ever. So yeah, give me the points in that game because nobody actually knows. Truly, no one cares. But in a game where no one knows or no one cares, I want the points.
See, folks, as you can tell, I get very pointed with picking which games Dave has because Dave does never use any numbers. He just uses guts, his feelings, and all of his preconceived notions when it comes to other college football teams. So, folks, heading over to BetOnline today. Fade Dave, take Wisconsin at -5.5. Use promo code Locked On LOCKEDON because BetOnline is where the game starts. Okay, Dave. We had all the positives. The defense had 24 yards only in the first half, which was amazing. Second half was a little bit of a different story, but that's also because you're playing up ahead. You have backups in. What does this team need to clean up from this game that you saw heading into the rivalry game this week at Doak South?
All right, guys. That first drive was just rough. Um, that fourth down, getting to fourth down should never have happened because we should have been able to convert that third down. I think Jordan Travis probably could have walked that first down himself. But regardless, that fourth down call, we're throwing a bullet pass to a backup tight end down the sideline. That's I don't know, that's a weird play call. There's a million ways to get a first down against that bad defense. Didn't need to be confusing. Felt like Mike Norvell outsmarted himself. Not to be outdone. That goal line play. I
The
mean,
Wildcat?
what the? I'm not gonna say it, but I don't know if it's that in situations that get like tense, Mike Norvell like just plays out 10 different scenarios in his head and rubs a magic 8 ball or something because that was an obvious that's an obvious spot to just run the ball or do anything else. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that felt like literally you could have picked anything out of a hat and done anything else, and it would have been smarter than that. It was all I mean, it's all over Twitter from people that know what they're talking about. That's just an instance of outsmarting yourself in a situation where it calls for simple football. And that's not the first time something like that's happened. So it just worries me because big moments like that are what matter in our games against better teams. And we still have better teams left on our schedule. So we're not going to we can't just get away with that against the rest of the teams on our schedule and expect to win those games because we should probably win the rest of the games on our schedule. And that's not how you do it. And I just hope the coaching staff has enough self-awareness to go back, look at this tape and learn from this because this has happened before and it hasn't been learned from, obviously.
So, folks, before we get deeper into this, we obviously know it was a dominating win. Obviously, the first quarter
Yes.
that was not like a basically a what's we're looking for a foreshadowing for the entire game, but it's
Correct.
something that basically we want to constructively criticize this program basically moving forward because Syracuse is a better team. Miami, shockingly enough, is a better team.
And Georgia
So
Tech.
is Florida. I mean, it's Georgia, I know, but it is Georgia Tech. It's kind of one of those games where you don't want to get too cute when it comes to beating bad teams like this. You
No.
don't need to do that against them. You might need to do this kind of game against Clemson. You might need to do that against NC State's run defensive line. You don't need to do that against Georgia Tech run defense that was bottom 15, bottom 25 in the country. All that being said, I think it's more of the fact that you're right. I think Mike Norvell is still learning on the job when it comes to basically these sort of situational moments because situationally, this was a very, very confusing football team, especially when they get into the red zone. I want to say this FSU red zone offense it is just not efficient. I think the word the kids use is mid because whenever it's between the 20 and the 20, all that green grass, the playbook is open. You have more opportunities down the field. But once they get into that final stretch of 20 yards, Mike Norvell has found a way each and every single time to basically get too cute, get away from what's working, and also basically kind of get his own head a little bit. And I wonder if that's just a situational thing or if that's just basically him trying to basically I just don't know what it is. If we're being completely honest here, it's kind of confusing at this point. And this we saw it against LSU, where the pitch play at the goal line. Thank God Shaheem Brown blocked the field goal, but that was an issue. You saw it also against NC State. You saw it again also against Georgia Tech this week. So to me, we need to clean this up because there will be better teams we play on the schedule that will not allow. Will basically that will actually
You won't get away with
what
it.
exactly. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for rounding up my point. This is about red zone touchdown percentage. Drake, how many teams in the country do you think are worse at scoring in the red zone than us?
6.
There's 11 teams in the country worse than scoring in the red zone than us. We're 119th in the country. That's a weird thing to be bad at with the team that we have. We have a receiver that's just been something other than a human being this year. At 6'7", throw the ball up to him. I don't know. Probably not going to get intercepted. Or, I don't know, run with any of our we still have 2 great running backs back there, even though Treshaun Ward's injured. Run it with either of them, or crazy idea, run it with our running quarterback. That 3 great options there, and there's plenty more than that. Just it, like Drake said, this was a very complete football game. By the time this game was over, there was no doubt as to which team was better. The defense and the offense both dominated. But this is something that has to get cleaned up. Mike Norvell's talked about this. This red zone scoring issue is a problem, and it's a problem that doesn't make sense. It's just poor decision making. That's all. It's there's not much more to it than that. The good news is that's something you can learn from. I just hope it's not a stubbornness issue, and a freaking out in the moment issue, because I don't think things are too big for Mike Norvell. I think he just gets in his head in those moments. So learnable moments, teachable moments. Just he knows it's a problem. Time to work on it.
I mean, I could definitely see Alex Atkins being like, "Hey, coach, let me handle the last 20 yards here. Just let me and the big boys up front handle it." And then one of my things that kind of we need to look at a little bit is this is me being constructively critical of the defense. I am sick and tired of letting up an offensive scoring drive opening up in the second half. This is the third straight game. It happened against NC State. It happened against Clemson. It happened, I think, Wake Forest, we got the ball first back, but still they immediately went down, scored from the first kickoff. I don't understand why. I feel like it's an automatic thing now at this point. If we're up 14-7 in Miami this weekend, I'll be like, oh, Miami's going to score the first drive here because it just feels like they have, I don't know whether it's a player thing. I don't know whether it's scheming or whether it's coaching. It feels like we have no sense of aggressiveness or urgency when the second half starts, and it feels like we have to wait till we get punched in the mouth to do anything.
It does feel like another instance of Adam Fuller trying to outthink himself, or maybe this is what it feels like to me. Okay, it feels like the second half starts and Adam Fuller goes, I'm not sure what they're going to do. They've probably been in that locker room scripting stuff up. So let's, like, I know people don't like this term, but let's bend but don't break here. See how this works out, and we'll
But they
adjust.
break though. But they've
They
been
do
breaking
break.
the past the past 3
Yeah,
games.
I know. I'm saying it feels like that's the thought process, and then it ends up breaking, and it's like, oh, okay, well, let's learn from that. As long as we learn from it, all's good here. And the reality is that was fine in this game. If that was that was the first touchdown we gave up in the game, and I believe the only touchdown we gave up in the game, right?
No, we gave up a touchdown at the
Right
last play of the
at
game.
the very end, right? The only real touchdown we gave up in the game.
Yeah.
Um, if the reality is we're only giving up our touchdowns starting with the first drive of the second half, that means we haven't allowed a touchdown in the first half. I'm okay with that.
Mhm.
That does need to get cleaned up. You're right. I'm not making fun of that. But it, just like you said, it's a conservativeness that's confusing from a defense with the pieces it has that dominated throughout the entire rest of the game. It's like this weird one series sequence where everything just reverts back to everything that's happened in the last few games. It's weird.
It's weird because I don't know if it's a wholly conservative issue, but it's also like it's just the lack of urgency you see coming like, from the defense overall when it comes to basically, all right, let's keep everything in front of us, but then basically find out. I think on this one was a little bit different because I remember correctly, Kevin Knowles was kind of picked, and that was like obvious OPI that wasn't called, and that kind of leaked to the score. But you still allowed them to kind of drive down. We almost had a 3 and out, and then for some strange reason, our defensive backs are playing 10 yards off of the wide receiver. Where listen, these wide receivers for Georgia Tech, we talked about it this week. There's none of them really basically, I guess, hold a candle to our defensive backs. So I don't know why we kind of let them all kind of give all that room to basically have a guaranteed catch and at worst get like a 5-7 yard gain. So to me, it's when we play Miami, and we'll get to it next segment, that their wide receivers, they're going to get several ones back. Colby Young, the JUCO transfer they had, is actually emerging as a weapon. Now, granted, we'll see if Jake Garcia or Tyler Van Dyke can pass the ball to him because that's been struggling an issue all season long. But that is going to be an issue with better, more talented wide receivers we're going to be seeing this coming week. But I do need to see the defense just come out the half kind of like with the offense, come out inspired, play with a little more urgency because I think that's more basically the key to us actually winning out these last 4 games.
Yeah, maybe I don't know. Look, I don't think there's necessarily a great explanation here. Maybe the coaching staff just really doesn't trust these DBs, these young. Just the DBs
Which is
have
fair.
disappointed. The DBs have disappointed this year. There is a fairness to that, but why that drive as opposed to every other drive of the game? I don't know. That's weird. Uh, uh, the coaching staff may not trust the DBs, but then why trust them every other drive? Just weird. I think it's something that, again, you take the full game into perspective, it didn't matter. But I do hope that's something that the coaching staff reflects on and isn't too stubborn to work on. Drake, I hope you're not too stubborn to tell the folks about something else good.
Good. The good thing is that we don't have an ad break for this actually in here. Actually, we're going straight over to the next segment. We'll talk about Miami and also basically how we feel that this is a team that, while Florida State should beat them by 10 to 20 plus points, I think this will be closer than a lot of people kind of hope to be. Okay, Dave, we're rounding out today's show, and now it's officially to start the kickoff of Miami Hate Week. Hashtag FMFFM. Dave, I'm going to let you go first because I know you're going to be the one kind of pump the fan base up and everything else. I'll try to kind of bring us a little bit back down, more down to earth. You go first. Give us your quick thoughts before we head into Miami Hate Week.
All right, here's my thoughts summed up in 2 words. Miami. Really that simple. That's a bad football team. I've been beating this drum. I'm going to take a victory lap here. I told you before the year, you take Charleston Rambo away from Tyler Van Dyke, and he's one of the worst quarterbacks in the ACC. I know a lot of people, everybody said that was stupid. Oh, I saw what I saw. Yeah, you saw what it looks like when Tyler Van Dyke has the luxury of one of the best.
I said that.
Yes, you did. You did say that. That's fair. Tyler Van Dyke sucks. That whole football team sucks. That team went as Tyler Van Dyke and Charleston Rambo went last year. They lost one of them. Without him, they're nothing. Just a really bad football team that has somehow managed to get worse under Mario Cristobal. Truly, that team's worse in pretty much every way. The defense is better than the offense, but that's not saying much. The offense is impotent. The defense has potential, but that defense also has a lot of work to do. This is It's funny. Max mentioned this to us in our group chat. Like, I don't understand why like rivalry games have to be close. That's not true. Like, you saw what happened. I don't like talking about this, but 2 years ago it was 52-10. They beat us. But it doesn't have to be any other way. Like, this is a team that we could go out there and beat 52-10. Like that's a plausible outcome. I hope the attention and the focus this week is at an all-time high. I don't think they're looking ahead or anything because this is a game you look ahead to, regardless of whether Miami's good or bad. It's in your DNA. If you come to Florida State, you come here to play in this game, and you come in here to beat the hell out of Miami and leave a lasting legacy in the box score, so that when people go back and look throughout history and see what Miami did to Florida State in 2020, they also see what Florida State did back to Miami in 2022, and that's exactly what I want to see, what I believe could happen, and what probably should happen based on the disparity in these two teams.
Yeah, this is a team. This is a Miami team that is still very injured. I mean, they are getting wide receivers back. So Xavier Restrepo should be coming back this weekend. Is one of the things that we saw. That Dave, I know, but we gotta like at least be realistic about the game a little bit, especially when our DBs have been struggling against wide receivers,
Sure.
especially no-name wide receivers too. So Colby Young has been someone that basically that's a player we need to watch out for. We'll have Alex Donald from Locked On Canes talk about that a little bit more. What's really been struggling with this team is the defense is actually pretty decent.
Yeah.
However, this team, FSU team overall, is a much better team. Right now, it's a much better program, especially because Josh Gass, right now, the offensive coordinator from Miami, who everyone thought was a home run hire, myself included, he has probably set back Miami's offense to basically Civil War era football,
Yep.
which is based like I think basically I heard the leather football helmets. Basically, that was the UVA Miami game. I was watching that on a bachelor party, and as I was just I've never been sobered up so fast by bad football in my entire life from watching that game. So to me, this is a game where FSU needs to, if they're able to clean up the sloppiness they had in their first quarter, play this game, you should win this game by 10 to 14 points. And that winning that game as an away game, easily with Jordan Travis, Ja'Kai Douglas kind of also coming back, CJ Campbell being emerging. You have all those running backs with Trey Benson and Lawrence Toafili, Johnny Wilson. This is a team that, quite frankly, it'll be close, in my personal opinion, for the first half. But then I think you'll see similar how Georgia Tech kind of pull away because TVD is still injured. Jake Garcia is the is a prime example of why myself and Dave did not want to see AJ Duffy start the season. The
Yeah.
kid is not ready. That offensive line is banged up. And I want to say that Jared Verse will have probably 3 to 4 sacks, but this is a game that is easily winnable. Not only that, you should be able to dominate that, even if the score is like 10 to 14 points. But you're right. It's not going to be a 3-point game. I hope it's not, because if that's the case, I will be very, very pissed with the staff.
Yeah, just like I said, bad football team. They can't block. They can't block for the pass. They can't block for the run. Even when they do block or when they don't block, doesn't matter because they can't throw the football. The defense has been extremely sloppy, especially in terms of tackling. That's nothing new to Miami football. Um, I love the spread in this game. Just on paper, one of these teams is substantially ahead of the other one right now, and the other one, Miami, is moving in the wrong direction right now as a program. And I don't think I don't think a lot of those fans are happy with that coaching hire right now. Maybe that'll change, but I've seen exactly zero indication that they have anything positive working other than some good
Recruiting.
pieces to work with in recruiting and on that defense. Other than that, they're in a tailspin, and this is a great chance to put your foot on an enemy's throat and make sure that you set them back both emotionally and record wise and bowl eligibility wise. So that is exactly what I want to see. I can't wait to get more into the specifics of this game statistically, and tell you why that's exactly what should happen here. But that's what I want to see. And guess what, guys? We could see it this year.
And we could see it this year. And it's a team basically. We have not seen Mike Norvell and his coaching staff kind of like put their feet on opponents' throats
Yeah.
overall entire season. This will be the test to see if he finally has the killer instinct into, because this is a very, very wounded Miami team offensively. Defensively, it's pretty solid along the defensive line, but they have lost a lot of pieces actually in that Virginia game. But we need to see basically where Mike and company have that killer instinct to basically finish out the job. And listen, this is Cristobal's first year. If you're losing to a first-year head coach who's struggling this bad, then there's going to be a longer conversation that we're going to have next week. But we're not putting that out there because I think it's a team that we easily beat. And folks, we'll talk about the Miami game more entirety throughout the entire, having old friends back on. Max is coming back on for the week. We got Alex Downall from Locked On Canes coming on. I'm messaging Trey Rowland right now to see if he's available as well. But folks, please comment below what you want to see improve from this team. How'd you feel about the win? And for Miami, if you want, talk a little bit of trash, because I know they will be in these comments after Dave's little rant just now, because as always, it's Miami. But Dave, please let the folks know where they can find us and also the YouTube instructions.
Guys, you know the drill for the podcast. You can find us anywhere you find your podcast: Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, Google Play, everywhere else. On the YouTube, please like the video if you like the video, which I believe you should, because Miami. Also, subscribe to the channel. Ding the little bell at the top. Turn on your notifications. It'll let you know when our videos drop. And like Drake said, leave us a comment. If you just want to talk some crap about Miami, we're here for it. We love reading it. Everyone loves reading it. You can all read it together. Just let's all rejoice in Miami sucking and how bad we should beat them.
And for Dave, this was Drake, and we'll see y'all next time on Locked On Seminoles. Take care, everybody, and welcome to Hate Week.
Hate Week, FMFFM.
FMF.